Fitzpatrick takes the snap, drops back, lobs it back right corner. Decker! He's got it! Touchdown! Eric Decker scores! And the Jets have won it in overtime!
This is the Jet Take with Ben Blessington and Kyle Fahey.
Good morning, New York. We have a trade. We have breaking news. The Jets are doing something relevant in the NFL. We're hopping on. This is going to be a special podcast today. I'm with Greg Armstrong from TOJ. Greg, say hi. You're unmuted now.
What up, Kyle? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Ben's sleeping. We're doing work. Ben's at his comfy mansion in the hills of Portland, Oregon, sleeping away like a baby, doesn't even know about the breaking news. We're putting in work right now. The Jets just acquired the third overall selection in the 2018 NFL Draft, and we gave away scraps for it. So, Greg, I need your initial reaction right now. Obviously, exciting times in Jet Nation. We're going to try and get this one pumped out. So just give me all your hot takes right now. Lay it on me.
First off, wow.
Yeah.
It was almost like I wanted to see it happen, but it was most likely going to happen on draft night, and to see it happen a month and a half before the draft even is here is brilliant work by McCagnon, because the Bills have way more ammo than the Jets, and we all saw that they were going to be the ones most likely to move in front of them to probably take that Colts third pick. But now the Jets hold a huge piece in this draft, and for everybody saying they gave up too much, it's not too much if they end up getting their guys. So just pipe down now. I don't want to hear you. If for all the people that say this is too much now, if they get Baker or Rosen and he turns into our starter for 10, 11 years, I don't want to hear any of those Jets fans. They don't deserve to cheer.
Yeah, they don't. And I guess that could be the same if Josh Allen ends up being good while playing for the Jets. I'll have to recant some tweets. But
I'll have to eat my words on that one.
Oh yeah, I'll have to untie the noose for me, because I have threatened to kill myself if we select Josh Allen, and that still stands at number 3. So I don't know, maybe I won't be around to watch him play. But my initial thoughts on this, I saw this, I was like, because I have the tweets from Adam Schefter, like the notifications on. It's that time of year, the same thing with Adrian Wojciechowski around the NBA trade deadline and stuff. NFL offseason means notification time. I saw that pop up on my screen, and I was ecstatic. This is something I think we all kind of expected might happen. There were definitely rumors of it. There were definitely hopes of it, that we would move up and not just sitting back at number 6 again, regardless of how much success we've had in that pick before. Now was time to get the quarterback. And like I said on the TOJ Emergency podcast earlier with Scott, who might be joining us later, and of course the big boss man, Joe Caparoso, I said it's finally time that the Jets stop focusing on the crumbs and go for the whole loaf. And that's what we're doing right now. We missed on Plan A and Kirk Cousins, so now we're stepping up to the bat. We took the first pitch, and now we're launching home runs like we're Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and the Bronx, okay? We're hitting big things right now. We're making big moves, and this is good. I think we saw this coming together a little bit. I know there were some theories when we signed Isaiah Crowell. A lot of fans were saying, why wouldn't we just take one of those great running backs in the second round? Maybe because the Jets weren't expecting to have a second-round pick, and they found the need to go get a guy like Isaiah Crowell or a guy like Morris Claiborne. Maybe you couldn't take those prospects on day 2 because they were planning on not having them. So, these moves are starting to make sense. McCagnon's plan is starting to come together, and now we have options at number 3, Greg, and this is the great part about it. No matter what happens at number 3, even if the Bills trade up to number 2 or number 1 and the Dolphins trade up to number 2 or number 1, we will have an opportunity to select either Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Josh Rosen, and whoever your 4th best quarterback is. Preferably for me, it would be Lamar Jackson. That would just be my 4th guy on that list. But to each their own. The Jets can get their franchise quarterback right now, and that's something we've been saying this whole offseason with Kirk Cousins, but now we have the opportunity to do it at a much cheaper rate and a much younger player who can come in and make this team a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, anybody, you can't sit at 6 and expect your guy to be there. The draft is really weird. We see teams every year. I mean, even last year with the Texans and Watson, the Chiefs traded up to get their guy in Mahomes. The Eagles got Wentz, Rams got Goff, and the list goes on and on. you can't sit at 6 and expect to get the guy that you want to be there. And making this trade up, yeah, with Crowell, who knows if one of those good running backs is going to be there. I mean, Sony Michel is flying up draft boards right now. Ronald Jones flying up draft boards right now. The draft is weird. You can't sit back and hope that your guys are going to be there when you're picking. You have to be aggressive. And this is the exact reason why Mikey Mack made these moves. He needs to be aggressive. You need to go up and get your guy, and he did exactly that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is all something we were looking for from this regime. They needed to be more aggressive, and that's what they've been doing this offseason. I think we were pretty aggressive with Kirk Cousins. He just had his mind made up. He wanted to go to Minnesota. There's nothing you can do about that. We were aggressive with Tremaine Johnson. We paid him a lot of money to come and play for the Jets. Obviously, the Jets wanted him. We're aggressive with this trade. So this regime, this franchise is taking steps in a positive direction for making this team better and having a plan long term. Because when you substitute one of these rookie quarterbacks in, which hopefully we're going to do, hopefully, I swear to God, if we pick like Minkah Fitzpatrick or something, this number 3 pick, oh man, I might burn the place down.
You might have to bring that noose back out.
Yeah, I'm going to Nakasami like the whole Jets facility. That's what's going to happen. I mean, this is like mind-boggling, and I know we're talking fast, we're talking loud. We're excited, ladies and gentlemen. When you're hearing this, this is obviously going to be an emergency pod, so lucky for you, you get to hear my voice at least twice this week. This is like hard to wrap our minds around. We haven't had this opportunity or this, like, I guess, precedent since Mark Sanchez.
Yeah, and to think that I don't even want to know if this trade were to have taken place on draft night, I wouldn't even have want to see the amount of things that they would have had to give up to move up to 3. This is perfect right now, because if they would have gotten a bidding war with the Bills or the Dolphins, the Jets probably would have lost, in all honesty. But they keep their first-round pick next year. They gave up the 2 second-rounders, which essentially is just one of their second-rounders, because they got the other second from Seattle in the Sheldon trade, which sneaky one of Mikey Mack's best moves. You get Kirsten, a wide receiver, who played very well last year, and you get this draft ammo to move up and get your guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about how much we gave up. We gave up 3 second-round picks. So what you want about second-round picks being the building blocks of your future, you can find great players there like Marcus May. That doesn't always happen. You're usually taking flyers on guys who didn't go in the first for a reason. And I know it's a positive spin for this perspective, and I can totally spin it the other way saying, oh, those are the building blocks for your future, just not at a high price. Well, when the quarterback of your team isn't good, you give up whatever is necessary, no matter what player, to go and make that quarterback good or acquire a good quarterback. And that's the name of the game in the NFL. You look at the successful teams in the NFL right now, specifically the Philadelphia Eagles, who, one, signed Sam Bradford and Chase Daniel, 2 veterans, and then still went up and traded a boatload for Carson Wentz. And you know what? They don't care right now because they're fitting themselves for a ring that they're going to get in about a month or so. They're planning a trip to Washington, D.C. pretty soon. Well, some of the guys are. Maybe not all of them. But they are celebrating a championship. They still may be hungover from all that celebrating. So it doesn't matter in the long run. I don't care on what second-round pick we do or don't have now if we get a franchise quarterback, because that means everything. And you know what? The Jets honestly didn't even overpay by that much. I was looking at the draft value chart on WalterFootball.com. We only paid about 200 points more in this year's draft. Now, obviously, next year's second-round pick, we don't know where that's going to place, so we can't measure its value quite yet. But if we get a franchise quarterback, I'm assuming that's going to be in the bottom 15 of the draft of the second round, at least, you know, assuming that everything goes well next year, or at least 8-8. So I don't think the Jets overpaid that much.
No, and if you look at the track record for the Jets and their second-round picks, Christian Hackenberg for one. I mean, like, just because there's supposed value and these values of second-round picks are so high, doesn't mean that I trust the Jets to make the right play in the second round. Like, I know they got Marcus May last year. That's a really good pick. But look, if you look at the track record of Mikey Mack, it's not stellar. And I'd rather use those picks to go up and use them as assets to trade up. I mean, there's really not. I don't know. I don't understand why people would be upset with giving up 2 second rounders. The best thing about this, though, is this whole offseason, this whole week, is that Mattagan and the Jets clearly had a plan if they didn't get Kirk Cousins. And the best part was they executed on it. They didn't sign guys on flyers. They didn't sign aging veterans. They got younger. They got the guys that they wanted, especially with all this cap space. They used it. They didn't sit back. They weren't hesitant on pulling the trigger on these kind of guys. And now we're reaping the benefits. I mean, hypothetically, we're reaping the benefits of it now.
Yeah, absolutely. I love your point there of following the plans. I wonder what Plan C was, though. I wonder if Plan C would maybe take somebody in the second round. I mean,
I could see them probably just taking, which would kill me even more, going best player available at 6, and then probably taking a project quarterback like Mason Rudolph, or if Lamar Jackson's still there in the second round, take him.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think that was going to be Plan C, and go in with McCown and Teddy Bridgewater to battle it out in training camp and just have the project quarterback sit for 3 years and just possibly ignite the fan base and then put a civil war in us once again. But let's put this trade into perspective, because our buddy Joe Malfa from TOJ, he just put out a great tweet. Sheldon Richardson, a 2018 second-round pick, a 2019 second-round pick, the number 6 overall pick, for Jermaine Kearse, a number 3 overall pick. Sounds pretty fair.
Yeah, I would say it's a pretty fair deal.
Yeah. I mean, the Colts are a team right now who obviously have questions around their team. New coach, Andrew Luck, hopefully coming back this year for them. They need building blocks for this team, because it's really Andrew Luck and T.Y. Hilton at this point. Their defense is not good. The offensive line is questionable at best. The weapons, in exception to T.Y. Hilton, have been subpar for most of Andrew Luck's tenure. I mean, this was a team who was desperate to build with blue chips, and you know what? They can get that with 3 second-round picks and the number 6 overall pick. They're a team who can afford to go with the best player available, who can afford to take Minkah Fitzpatrick or Quentin Nelson, because they have their franchise quarterback in mind, assuming he's healthy. So, this is a win-win for everybody in this trade, assuming everything works out for both parties. Now, we know it's the Jets, so usually things don't work out for both parties.
No.
Greg, I want to get your nightmare scenario here, because we can't be 100% positive. I know you said you haven't listened to an episode of the Jet Take. We always have a negative spin on something. So go ahead, put your worst scenario into this.
I mean, I don't think I'm going too far out on left field here and saying that the worst possible scenario is that the Jets take Josh Allen. I mean, he's not accurate. We're basically just getting a bigger, taller, stronger-armed Bryce Petty at that point. Probably the second worst nightmare is taking Bradley Chubb.
Ooh.
I mean, I love Bradley Chubb. I love Bradley Chubb as a player, as a prospect, as an edge rusher. But trading up to 3 to get an edge rusher I would be on suicide watch.
Yeah, 100%. Greg, you say that as our resident person who tries to talk me out of suicide for drafting Josh Allen. Scott from the Play Like a Jet podcast has joined us. Scott, I just heard most of your takes on the Emergency TOJ podcast. For all the Jet Take listeners, one, give us your initial thoughts.
I'm so happy right now. I really am.
Oh, yeah.
I had a really long chat. Only about a half hour of it actually aired, though, because Dennis Waszak, the Jets beat reporter for the Associated Press, who's become a friend of mine, and he's an awesome guy, and his work is great. So if you're not reading his articles over at the Associated Press, you're missing out. For my money, there's not a better beat reporter out there. But we had a long chat yesterday, and we were talking about this whole thing, and we both said, based on the way Mac is and everything, we were relatively certain that he was going to sit at 6, that when the draft came, he would investigate moving up. Maybe he'd move up if the price wasn't super prohibitive, but that likely he would sit at 6 and wait for the draft to fall to him. And as you know, Kyle, because I went off on this on the Jet Take on Wednesday, and I talked about it on the the free agency recap show with Corey Griffin the other day, I was nervous as hell because I really felt like that's what Mac was going to do. Your old friend Darryl Slater from New Jersey Advance, he said, gun to his head, he thought that's what Mac would do too. Well, today, Mac showed that we really don't know anything because he's one of those guys that keeps you Tremaine Johnson, we heard some rumors and whispers, we fit, so it makes sense the Jets would go after him, but we didn't hear, Tremaine Johnson's visiting with the Jets. The Jets are in intense negotiations with Tremaine Johnson. It was just, hey, guess what? The Jets signed Tremaine Johnson, right? There was no leaks about Mo Claiborne. In fact, I had Darryl Slater on, and he said, they're working on something, but I don't think it's close or anything. Boom, here's Mo Claiborne. So Maccagnan has seemed to be very good at keeping leaks from getting out, and you really don't seem to know what he's going to do, but just based on his history, we guessed he would be conservative here. He wasn't. He decided he knew that he had to make a move, and he went out and he did it. Yeah, they gave up 3 second-round picks, and obviously you don't want to give up draft capital if you can avoid it. But as Kyle, you mentioned before in the emergency pod that's going to be out any minute, the fact is when you get yourself a franchise quarterback, which is what you hope Rosen or Mayfield would be, no one cares. No one cares what the Eagles gave up to get Wentz. No one cares what the Rams gave up to get Goff. No one cares what the Texans gave up to get Deshaun Watson. Now, obviously, if one of these guys busts, that's another story, but this is a chance you have to take, and I am so happy that they didn't leave it to chance and that they decided to get aggressive, do it now, and now you know that they can get one of these 3 guys. I'm in Camp Baker Mayfield. I think that because of Rosen's medical, he worries me a lot, especially at 215 pounds. He's got 3 concussions, the bad shoulder, and I'm just envisioning a scenario where he's getting smashed around by a Bill Belichick defense 2 times a year, and in a couple of years the concussions become too much and, the worst-case scenario. I would still take him, don't get me wrong, because as you mentioned and Ben mentioned as well, I think he's the best precision passer in this draft class. I'd take him if Mayfield's gone, but my first choice is Mayfield. I think he could electrify the fan base. I talked to Dennis Wozniak about this last night. And Kyle, really, I'll go back to you and Greg, but I am so excited right now. I can't even tell you. My girlfriend can't comprehend how excited I am right now because she's like, what are you so excited about? The draft is over a month away. I'm like, you don't understand. I've been waiting for this for like 30 years. You don't get it. And she was like looking at me like I'm nuts. But I'm so excited. I'm so happy Matt Maccagnan did this. Once they missed on Cousins, this is the move that had to be made, and they went out and they made it. And if you're a Jets fan and you're complaining about this, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't, because they're finally on the verge. They're knocking on the door of finally adding that piece that they haven't added in forever. I've been a fan of this team for over 30 years, and I've been waiting for this. Thank God they finally pulled the trigger on a move like this, and now let's just wait and see who it ends up being. Like I said, I hope it's Mayfield. I'd be happy with Rosen too, but I'm so excited, guys.
Yeah, the title of this episode is going to be 72.5. Who should we take at number 3? So, Scott, you just gave us your opinion on it. Greg, I don't think we've really heard yours yet. I think most people know mine by now. Greg, who are you taking at number 3, man?
I am firmly in Camp Baker. I just think his bravado about himself, his attitude, it's perfect for New York. The Jets need a guy like that. I mean, I like Rosen, but Mayfield is the type of guy for New York. He's very accurate. He's mobile. He can throw on the run.
Yeah.
I want to see him yell at Bill Belichick from the sidelines. After the touchdown pass to Robbie Anderson.
Greg, can I add to your point there about Mayfield? Because I had somebody yesterday who said to me, Mayfield's a fraud, right? And you hear this a lot because Mayfield played in the Big 12 and he played in the shotgun offense. You hear people say, he's a product of the system and he played weak competition and this and that. I went back and I crunched the numbers. Yeah, well, I mean, listen, you can only play who you can play. But still, I went back and I crunched the numbers on his, when he played against ranked competition. So we're not talking about scrubby Big 12 teams. We're talking about teams like TCU, Georgia, Ohio State, the cream of the crop. I went back and I crunched his numbers. Here's what Baker Mayfield did against top competition last year. 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, a 201 quarterback rating, a 69% completion percentage, and 11.5 yards per attempt. Now, if that's a fraud to you, then I don't know what to say. And when people want to say, but what about he's in a system. Look, if you're a scrubby system quarterback, you don't murder Ohio State the way that he murdered Ohio State. You go back and look at his game logs, by the way, and you watch the tape, obviously, that's number one. But you look at his game logs, there was not a bad game he played last year. He was great in every single game, even the ones they lost. He was tremendous. And like you said, Greg, he can move, and that's huge for a guy his size because he's only a shade over 6 foot. But we've seen with the smaller guys, when they can move and create passing lanes for themselves, they can be effective. If you're a statuesque 6 foot, that's another story. But when you can move and create lanes, you can be successful in the NFL. And quite frankly, his accuracy on the deep ball, especially if you have Robbie Anderson here, maybe you add another speed threat. I've been talking about Willie Snead from the Saints as a possibility. Being able to go downfield or having a Nunwa to throw over the seam, stuff like that. So many possibilities with Baker Mayfield as far as that goes. But he's just so exciting, and I think that, like you said, Greg, his fire and his competitive attitude, man, would I love to see. They were joking yesterday about what if the Jets traded for Odell Beckham, which from a salary cap standpoint, they could do it. I don't think the Giants are going to trade him, and certainly not to the Jets. But just think about how exciting it could be if Baker Mayfield is dropped into this offense and he starts succeeding and really, like you said, grabbing his crotch and yelling at Brady and Belichick and stuff like that. I am so on the Baker Mayfield train, and I'm a Texas fan. So for me to be on board with Mayfield means that I must really think he's awesome, because it hurts me to my core that there could be an Oklahoma quarterback behind center for the Jets. But, man, you guys – Greg, you hit the nail on the head there. I think his attitude is great, but it's not just the attitude. The attitude's nice. It's a nice added thing, but just look at his play, his downfield accuracy, and just the way that he was consistent all year, and he attacked defenses, and he just mauled the best competition in the country. People don't want to talk about the bad conference or the system QB. Go back, watch his film, and on top of that, look at the performances he put up against the best teams. He killed them all. Even in the ones where he lost, he was great. He was great in every game. So I just don't see how anybody wouldn't be excited for him. Rosen, same thing. Rosen's a great pure passer. The only thing, like I said, that's a worry for me, the drawback, is the medical. I would prefer Mayfield in part for that reason, in part for the other stuff I said, but either way, I'd be happy with either one. But you guys, I think we all agree, Mayfield, knock on wood, would be the better choice.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm also corner Broadway Baker. I am, you know what? You like that. You like that, because I like that. How about that one, folks? Plan B, executed perfectly. I think that sums it up. I think this is where we're going to end it. We got our choice now, folks. That's all we can say. We'll talk to you Wednesday. Until then, go Jets.